Well, hello there, I'm Vince, also known as Pleasant Kenobi on the internet, and today is Wednesday, which means it's Warhammer Wednesday. Here on Warhammer Wednesday, I am interested in journalistic integrity and the pursuit of truth. So I ask the really hard-hitting questions like, did the Eldar fuck too much? The Eldar are a spacefaring race of space elves in space, quite literally a Tolkien-esque port of traditional fantasy cliches and conventions into a grim dark future. Originally they were called the Eldar, they have since been renamed the Eldari in order to make copyright easier for Games Workshop. They also have heads that look like sanitary products. Anytime Games Workshop do this name change thing, it is for this purpose, this licensing purpose. Space Marines to Adeptus Astartes? Boom! Copyright. Imperial Guard to Adeptus Militarum? Boom! Trademark, bitch! Generic names like Sisters of Battle just isn't unique enough to argue with someone in a court of law, so we have Adeptus Sororitas instead. And as much as this sounds like capitalist bureaucracy, it kind of makes sense, right? They do have to protect their intellectual property, and it ends up coming out sounding better anyway. These high Gothic sounding names, high Gothic being the old language of the Imperium, they sound better. Yeah, the sort of pseudo-Latin shit sounds better. But Vince, Eldar doesn't sound too generic. It sounds like elves, but isn't literally battle elves or space elven. What's the problem, I hear you say? Well, yes and no. Eldar was literally a term or word used in Tolkien's writing, Eldar being the name given to the elves in some book or something. I don't know what book it was, because books are for fucking nerds. Anyway, the Eldar were once a grand, galaxy-spanning empire, the dominant force in the Milky Way, long before a certain bipedal bunch of non-pointy-eared cunts showed up and started causing problems and being all zealous and angry.
I fear no evil, for I am fear incarnate.
Alright, cunt, calm down. That said, the humans did rise up to become a power with spacefaring technology during the period that the Eldar Empire was at its peak. This was called the Age of Technology by the humans, but regardless of this, the Eldar were the big dogs on campus even during this time. The individuals within the Eldar or Eldari Empire were your typical fantasy trope shit. They're elves, they're space elves, so they're highly attuned to the world or the universe around them. They're also like latently psychic and all that shit. So they've got heightened senses and they perceive things differently or more comprehensively than your average lad. This, coupled with the fact this huge, powerful, technologically advanced and psychically awakened race had no need to engage in manual labour like industry or agriculture, thanks to their advanced tech, meant that they were left to explore their senses, each other, and the world around them. This exploration spanned human millennia, and by millennia I mean thousands of years. Young Vince didn't understand that, so I thought I'd mention that. It's thousands, not millions. Millennia is thousands. This exploration, as you will, is often described as a period of decadence and hedonism. That essentially means fucking. So much fucking. But all the fucking aside, it's super interesting as a science fiction concept. A race so advanced and in no need of working and it's left to its own devices to find new thrills, extrapolating that over a long enough time frame would lead to new heights of hedonism and depravity. It's kind of like Star Trek, but with just more banging. This is the future liberals want, and it's disgusting. Some of the Eldar fled to become what were called Exodites, which basically means the Wood Elves of 40k. Not a playable race, but they exist in the wilds of fringe worlds, riding dinosaurs, and avoiding the murder fuck parties of their central civilization's growing ludicrousy. Others left to build colony world ships, later to be called craft worlds, in order to get away from all that banging. However, the central society, the central culture of Eldar got worse and worse, especially the rich fuckers. Art imitating life, the eldest and richest did spiral further and further. With near infinite resources to hand, things got a little bit more fucked up. Conceptually for me, this draws parallels to the real world libertine movement, where rich fuckers with nothing else to do abandon any sense of contemporary morals, responsibility or restraint because they've lived a life of privilege with zero consequences for their bullshit. The most famous examples of the libertine movement is probably Marquis de Sade, the man that sadism is literally named after due to his incredibly perverse literary works, and according to Wikipedia, John McAfee. Yes, that McAfee. The one that the one that created the antivirus software. That's a Google rabbit hole you probably don't want to go down right now. But in short, these were the ones that became the first, like, Drukhari, evil, Cenobite shit things. Yeah, but even within this space opera fiction, the reality of time is that nothing lasts forever. Even, especially, a good time of banging. Although it probably wasn't a good time of banging for anyone that wasn't hideously filthy rich, if we extrapolate the contemporary power dynamics and injustices into a fictional 25th millennia. This several thousand-year cacophony of orgies and torture and violence and murder had a lasting effect on not only the psyche of the people involved, but the universe as a whole. It kind of birthed a demon god. That's unfortunate. The four chaos gods within the Warhammer fiction are manifestations within both real space and the warp of collective emotions, beliefs, and latent psychic energies of the universe's populace. When a race is psychically attuned and widespread as the Eldar finger fuck their time away for thousands of years, that build-up is going to be pretty fucking big. And it culminated in an eruption, an ejaculation, some might say. A psychic shockwave that ripped open the Eye of Terror, consuming the Eldari homeworlds and bringing about the birth of the Dark Prince, she who thirsts, Slaanesh. Slaanesh is often referred to as a he by the force of the Imperium, and as a her by the forces of Eldar. This can be a cultural thing. This happens with real-world deities as well, where the same deity might be perceived by two different cultures to manifest differently, whether it be gender or physical form. But beyond that as well, Slaanesh is often shown to be androgynous or between genders, because it mixes all the physicality of what it is to be like a sentient creature. They are the fourth and youngest of the Chaos Gods, an embodiment of excess and physical sensation. Their domains range from, like I said, excess to hedonism to pleasure and to pain. It's all about the physical sensation of existing, but taken to the extreme. Thematically and aesthetically, think of Hellraiser's Cenobites, but filtered through Lady Gaga's wardrobe with a neon pink 80s fever dream filter over the top. And in some ways, the existence of a hedonism or the extreme pleasure god within the canon of 40k, it makes me look a bit more favourably upon the extremes of some of the governments of Warhammer 40k's universe. I'm delicately phrasing this, I tell ya. It softens my perspective to the harsh, restrictive nature of some of the more oppressive regimes within the canon. Look, fascism isn't big, clever, or cool, but when allowing your local populace to fuck unchecked might invoke a demonic incursion of murder fuck monsters, then fanatical celibacy becomes a valid survival strategy. In the grim dark future, there's only really two options. That's fanatical chastity or barbed skin-peeling fuckathons. And quite frankly, I'm not sure which side of that fence, which side of my bread is buttered when it comes to that conversation. So back to the title question, did the Eldar fuck too much? I believe to really answer the question we must unpack it. Is it possible to fuck too much? Question mark. Look, sex is great, it's a wonderful thing that should be celebrated. I like to think of myself as a relatively sex-positive person, and I do enjoy also laughing at the absurdity of the act of sex and how biologically we're also inclined towards thinking about it and doing it. But all that said, is it possible to have too much of a good thing? For example, if you sex all the time, you'll get nothing done. To quote Durham-based rock band Martha, perhaps you are good for my mind, but not my productivity. But seriously, I fucking love this album. You should go listen to it now on Spotify and buy some merchandise from the band or some shit. But in the Eldari defense, productivity wasn't really up there in terms of what they needed, because everything was being taken care of for them. Like I said, it was kind of like a Star Trek scenario where no one needed to work, but instead of furthering exploration and science and the humanities even, they all sort of just lazed around fingering each other's bums. So we come back to it again. Is it possible to fuck too much? Well, even with productivity aside, I do think it is possible. We've all been there in the early days of a relationship or even flying solo. You're young, you're sprightly, you're incredibly horny, and you are just going at it, and before you know it, you're red raw. Your bits can't take anymore. No cum is coming out of the end anymore. It's just dust and disappointment. Or perhaps you've used every single hole and friction is starting to win out in this battle of attrition. You just can't take another pounding. It's impractical, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. So yeah, I think you can fuck too much like that, but hold up! Counterpoint. If they don't need to farm anymore because machines are doing it for them, A, maybe machines can fuck for them, but B, imagine the technological marvels of Eldari Viagra, Eldari lubricant, Eldari, what is the other thing I wrote down here? Eldari ointments for your junk to soothe the pain. It's like Sudocrem, but better for your bumhole. So I don't think actually the attrition argument goes against them for fucking too much. So then we come on to the final sticking point, the final argument against the Eldari fucking too much. The birth scream of a psychic entity like Slanesh ripping a hole in the universe and the ensuing millennia of strife, pain and suffering that entailed. When you put it like that, it's hard to argue otherwise. I think they probably did bang too much of the old hanky-panky. What did you expect the answer to be for this video? It's a definitive 100% Demon God Prince Lady spawning yes. And to this day, Games Workshop is still punishing them with Forge World nerfs and no model revamp. Ha! Got 'em.